Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. This is our live webcast, broadcasted around the world through the Internet. And tonight we've got a great story for you. One that Wall Street forgot to tell you. You're going to see a lot more of that happen. And this concerns the new Latin America debt crisis. The little country called Argentina. And as we speak, the IMF is in secret negotiations to try to arrange a bailout. They have said that they are not going to announce the terms or conditions of the bailout until after the negotiations are completed, done in secret. But there's another side of the story of why the IMF has had so much pressure on it to solve this whole debt problem. See, the IMF basically is run by the United States of America. We have enormous power over that institution. And there's a little problem. The problem is retirement savings. The last pool of money left after the 2007-8-9 financial crisis was the retirement of the boomers, okay? And Wall Street has worked through State Street and Vanguard and BlackRock to get a hold of that money. And as you know, they've done an incredible amount of advertising, and they hold the vast majority of shares of stocks and corporations, and they hold the vast majority of retirement funds. And they've created this incredibly ridiculously unfair trading platforms that give them enormous power. But here is what they're not telling you. See, they had to advertise yield. And as you know, in the last few years, savings paid nothing. And that put baby boomers under enormous pressure to get a return on their investment. So they put together these high-yield packages, okay? And, well, if you're getting high yield, you're taking high risk, but they didn't present it that way. Have you considered the opportunities in emerging markets? Unforeseen investments in Latin America. What happened is they sucked billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of baby boomers' money, and they put it into some of the biggest dog shit debt in the world. And we are now sitting on a situation where there is a huge debt wipeout occurring in Argentina as we speak. And the dirty little secret that isn't being told is that the people that hold the vast majority of the Latin America debt of these funds, and they hold in the name of retirees who think that they're in high-yield savings accounts. They don't even disclose the shit investments they've made with people's money. So we've got a situation where we have got a plain, old-fashioned debt wipeout on the way, and it's in stealth mode. They aren't telling anybody about it. How do you like that? You might have heard a headline or two about how the Argentino peso is now at a record low against the dollar, and you've heard how the central bank raised interest rates to 40%. Well, what you don't know is that they issued last year 100-year bonds paying 7%, and the fund boys picked it up. And those are the very issues that are in trouble right now. So what you've got is this stealth credit crisis that is being driven by the fact that U.S. interest rates are going higher. It's being driven by the fact that the Latin American debt is dominated in dollars, and it's tied to U.S. interest rates. As U.S. interest rates go up, well, the cost of borrowing the money on that Latin American debt goes up, but it gets even uglier. The problem is that the debt is dollar denominated. So as the dollar gets more expensive, servicing the debt gets to be more money. Now you add the trade crisis, commodity prices falling around the world, competition's fierce, and you get an idea of this growing crisis. As we speak, the IMF is trying to figure out how they're going to screw another group of people out of their money. You have what I call the IMF kiss of death. When the IMF comes into a country, it practices austerity. Austerity means that the local bankers get off with all their thievery and all their larceny, and the people of the country have to pay. People get screwed out of their retirement. People get screwed out of their bonuses, their benefits. And what happens, the IMF basically specializes in making the little guy pay for the big guy's mistakes. I mean, that's how that works, as you probably are well aware of. But the problem with the Latin American debt crisis this time is much bigger than last time. See, the IMF doesn't solve the problem. The trick is they roll the debt over. So what happens is you got an ever bigger ball of money owed, and each crisis adds more to that ball until it gets so big that you can't float it in the air anymore, and it crashes. And we are just such a situation. We have got retirement fund savings accounts chock full of shit. That is lousy second-rate corporation debt that now has a problem because, guess what? The debt service gets higher. The interest rate gets higher. The rollover becomes more difficult. And we have an immense amount of debt rolling over this year and next. Huge amounts. And this paper has no home. It has no buyer because we now have the crowding out. Just this week, the U.S. Treasury had its biggest auctions of debt ever. The auctions were well received. But what's happening is you got the U.S. federal government competing with suck dead broke corporations and companies that have got inferior debt and have no way to pay it back. And this situation is festering. And we are now headed for a global debt crisis. So I want you aware that what little known to most people is that the boomers are getting screwed left and right. The big boys are turning their bad debt into baby boomer debt. They're getting the hell out, and letting the boomers stand beside with what will be a portfolio of assets that will be devalued dramatically. The secret that they're not telling you is that there's going to be a temporary bailout here, but the long-range plan is for a massive Argentina debt devaluation. Now, that debt devaluation will spread because what you don't know is you heard about how Venezuela's all messed up, and they got the Banana Republic problems, and well, what they're not telling you is that these same companies have vast amounts of Venezuela debt they bought. Why? Well, when you buy third world shithole debt, the yield is very high, and so you book that yield on your sheets, and it shows you being an Einstein. Look at this, we're paying 4% more than the equivalent market. We are the highest payer of interest rates, so that's why you've got to put your money in our fund. What they aren't telling you is that to achieve that high rate, they've taken enormous risk, and the fact of the matter is they have bought debt that will be never paid back in mass. Venezuela is not going to pay its debts back. Argentina is not going to pay its debts back. Brazil is headed for another debt wipeout, as is Colombia. See, in the past 5 years, these countries have gone to the debt market and have sucked huge amounts of money out. Now, how do they do it? Well, they didn't do it because they were more productive. They didn't do it because they had a better quality cocaine. They did it because they were paying super high interest rates. And you remember the subprime crisis? That was where debt rating agencies did not rate the debt correctly. Well, let me tell you a story. They've done that shit all over again. Little known is the fact that the ratings on the Venezuela debt was outrageous. Ratings on Mexican debt are not taking into account the narco state, not taking into account the trade war with the United States, not taking into account the fact that a huge part of the Mexican economy, which is Mexicans working in the United States and sending money back home, is being throttled. It's being choked off. Then they're not telling you the other story, that the commodity prices are coming down. And that means that these countries that are commodity rich and agricultural commodity rich, besides the minerals, are getting paid less than ever. The competition is fierce out there. And we are seeing commodity prices come down around the world. What they aren't telling you is that these lows are basically tied to the health of these economies, obviously, and we're entered into a global recession. And we have a recession in the United States. They have a depression in Latin America. So we are headed into an incredible surge in bad debt again. Now, the reason why I'm coming to you is that if you've got those high-yield retirement savings accounts, get the hell out. Listen to me. All 401ks, 10ks, REKs, Roth, all these retirement funds, take the money and run. Put your money into U.S. government securities, which are paying a fantastic rate right now, and you will live happily ever after. If you're going to rely upon these high-yield retirement savings plans, you are going to get screwed. Now they can tell you, well, you got to pay taxes. Well, you got to pay taxes anyway. And another little secret is the taxes on the middle class did not go down on the Trump tax break bonanza for billionaires. It went up. And another little dirty little secret is it's scheduled to go up a lot more in the next 5 years. You're going to be taxed to death, whether Trump's in power or whether he's impeached and the Democrats in the power. Whoever's there is going to tax the hell out of the boomers. Take your money and run. Pay the taxes now. Get your money out of the clutches, because the other thing is that we're headed for the next phase of a global debt wipeout. It's not just these third world shithole countries. It's also marginal corporations that have borrowed immense amount of debt, and the interest rates they paid you did not compensate you for the risk you're taking. And now your risk is getting a lot greater. Now your losses are going to skyrocket. So I am here to warn you today that you need to get your money out of their clutches. You need to get your money out of junk bonds, or high yield as they call it. You need to get your money out of third world debt. There's a reason why it's a third world, and there's a reason why it pays more, and that's because it's phenomenal risk. You will not get your money back. Now is the time. Now is the time to get out, get your money in fantastic yields, and lock them in. Because the yields on long-term U.S. government debt, if they haven't peaked, they're very near to peaking. So that means that what you do is you get the best rates in 10 years. You get out of a wipeout before it occurs. You get your money to safe, secure U.S. government securities. You pay that deferred tax because the deferred tax is going to go higher. So right now is the best rate you're ever going to get to pay off the money you owe the government. See, what most people don't understand is that those retirement accounts are not tax-free. They're tax-deferred. They're postponed. And what you don't understand is that government is going to be desperate to raising taxes. So that means that you have got to get there, grab your money in this very small window we have, lock in the proper term U.S. government debt at treasurydirect.gov, no broker, no commission, no risk, 1,000,000% secure, safe, secure government debt guaranteed to be there. You're getting an extremely high rate. You are hopefully getting out before the next debt wipeout comes on. See, one of the big secrets is that there's a huge amount of global debt that's about to go bad. And the IMF is going to be running around like a fireman trying to put out the fires of all these debt defaults around the world. This is your moment to get out of those debt obligations, take your money and run, pay taxes at what will be a bargain basement rate as your tax rate increases in the next few years. Lock in government securities at the best rate we've had in a decade, and at a time when the yield curve is flattening, which means that you're going to make a fortune because that 10-year paper is going to become more and more valuable as rates go down on long-term paper. It's called an inverted yield curve, and that's what we're headed for. So you have got this incredible gift of God to get out right before the debt crisis, to sell your shares out of all of those high-yield funds you're in, get out of the emerging market funds, get out of the Latin American funds, that's stock market funds and money market funds, get out of their bad credit, get out with the lowest tax rate you're going to have from now into the future, take your money, lock in the highest rates in U.S. government securities. It is, my friends, it's the perfect storm. You have got this little moment in time where you can get out with your money intact. You can make a huge, huge savings by paying taxes now or what they're going to be in the future. You can avoid what is going to be another global credit wipeout starting in Latin America. Remember, Venezuela is toast. Cuba is not far behind, but thank God there's not a lot of that debt out there. Mexico is a narco state, and the next president is going to be very much anti-American. Donald Trump is itching for a trade war with him, and they're going to go toe-to-toe. Mexico economy is being devastated because they send a lot of their able-bodied young people that can't find work in Mexico to work in America, and they send that money back to Mexico, and that has stopped. Now you've got the commodity countries like Brazil with their soybeans and their sugar and their cash crops. You've got Argentina with their meat. You've got Chile with their fruit and vegetable business. These are all prices that are falling. These are markets that are seeing fierce worldwide competition. It is time to get out because they are not going to pay back their debts. As we speak, the IMF is arranging a bailout. Translation? A default. Covered up by IMF money. They are arranging a holding action just to stall this thing. Now, why do you think it got so bad so fast? It's because the dollar has really gotten on a moonshot. It's because U.S. interest rates are soaring. The markets cannot stand the pressure. See, there was no room for error in this thing. They were counting on rates staying low forever. I know it's an impossibility, but that's how these guys think. And now what's happening is forever came to an end. So you have got a massive budget deficit under Donald Trump. You've got a huge amount of Treasury funding. Look, the Treasury auctions are the biggest ever in U.S. history. This shit that the budget is being taken care of and handled is not true. This tax break bonanza for billionaires that was supposed to raise the amount of collections from corporations has gone down. Individual collections have gone up, but here's the punchline. The individuals who are paying more taxes are not making up for the tax losses by the corporations getting a big tax break. Translation, budget deficits are soaring. The amount of debt the United States has to finance, the national debt, is soaring. And the amount of money that they've got to borrow, the United States, on the marketplace is the most ever. Are you hearing me? The most ever. And now you've got the crowding out phenomenon. That means that all the small players, all the third world shitholes, have to wait in line till after the big pig in the trough, the United States, sucks up the available liquidity in the marketplace. Well, here is a news flash for you. After the United States gets done sucking up the liquidity, there's none left. There is no money in the system. There is no way in hell there's enough money to go around. So what does that mean? Well, when banks can't borrow money, when countries can't borrow money, when corporations can't borrow money, they default on the debt. They don't pay it. And we are about to have the rounds of the biggest debt defaults we've ever seen in world history. And there is no telling how far this spins out of control. Remember, you have massive unfunded liabilities in Chinese, massive hidden losses in the black market banking system, the shadow banking system. There's no assets to cover those losses. There is no orderly way to liquidate. Okay? The bankruptcy laws don't exist in China, and foreigners have no recourse. People are going to wake up and realize that they have been screwed on all this third world debt, and they're going to figure out they are not going to get their money back. Are you hearing me? Baby boomers' money is not in safe, secure U.S. government securities. Your corporation has an unfunded liability in their pension program and no way to plug it. State and local government have the same problem. County governments, school districts, hospital districts. There is a huge amount of debt that represents the deficit in retirement savings that's supposed to be there, and it's not. You have 10,000 baby boomers retiring a day, and there is no money to pay them. Are you hearing me? The money does not exist. Now, it's like a Ponzi scheme. The first people in the front of the room at the hotel will get paid, but the ones in the back not. I want you at the front of the line. I want you getting your money out of these Ponzi schemes. I want to get your money out of your corporate retirement account. I want you to get your money out of your 401ks and your Roth retirement plans. I want you to pay the taxes on that money, and I want you to put your money in U.S. Treasury Direct. The wipeout has started. Are you hearing me? We are already on the road to another sovereign debt crisis. This time it's not going to stop in Latin America. This is going to spread around the world. Why? Well, you got a problem. You got a whole generation of people who are retiring that have not replaced themselves. In other words, coming up behind them are not the workers. At one time you had like 7, 8, 9 workers for each retiree. We're now entering a 1-to-1 ratio. There's not enough money to meet that commitment. There is not enough money to pay off the baby boomers' retirement. Many baby boomers that think they're retirement millionaires with their little retirement calculator will find out that after the debt default, after Argentina and Mexico and Venezuela and Colombia and Brazil don't pay you, you've got no money. The corporations that were rated triple shit junk, well, they had a bonanza. They had borrowed at the lowest rate for junk debt ever. They ain't got the money to pay you. They do not have the money to roll over that debt. Now you've got an economic slowdown, which means they don't have the business either. This is a disaster in the making, my friends. The IMF secretly holding meetings to bail out Argentina once again is the tip of the bad debt iceberg. Incredible sums of money have already been lost, and you don't even realize it. Incredibly bad deals, incredibly bad financing, incredible sovereign positions of these countries. Look, the world's in a massive slowdown. The reason why you've got populations that are leaving Africa and leaving Latin America is not because things are good. It's because things are bad. Okay? The scourge of drugs goes from Colombia all the way north to the Mexican border. The wipeout of jobs, the wipeout of farming, the wipeout of productive and financially sound management is leaving these countries. The other problem you've got is commodity prices are falling, which means that it's putting added burdens on these countries. The bureaucrats are huge. The amount of money being stolen is unprecedented from these countries. The cronyism, the corruption is like something never seen before. These countries will not survive this. We are headed for a debt crisis. We are headed for baby boomers being impoverished like never seen before. And I want to see that happen to you. You know, your retirement is supposed to be the most safe, secure money you have. You're not supposed to be speculating with it. You're not supposed to be playing with that money. Any money you have in retirement that's not cash in your mattress and U.S. government securities is money at risk. Look how the world's changing, okay? You've got trade wars popping up all over the place. You've got the dollar skyrocketing in value. You've got interest rates soaring. You've got talk of a recession. The argument now is, does a recession hit late 2018, 2019, or 2020? There's no discussion. We've got a recession. What are you going to do? You're going to wait for the announcement? You've now got an Argentina debt wipeout again. You now have got a debt crisis in Venezuela. You got Colombia going up for grabs. You got Brazil hurting. How much more do you need to see before you realize, there's something wrong here? There's a lot wrong here. Remember, these big machines, these big fund machines, retirement funds, stock fund machines, they have cornered all the baby boomer assets. And they've gotten those assets and they've put them in the worst performing markets ever, chasing high yield. Remember, nobody understands. If you ask the average person, how much is your retirement savings account yielding? They'll tell you in a minute. If you ask them, what are they invested in? They'll say, foreign markets. Okay, what markets? What are you investing in? What is the rating of that debt? What is the soundness of it? Will it be paid back? They can't tell you. So I'm urging you now to get control of your finances. Don't be greedy. U.S. government yields and U.S. government debt are a gift from God. Grab that paper. Put it safe. Put it secure. Get your money out of the clutches of these big Wall Street machines. All they're going to do is wipe you out. This Argentina debt default is a warning sign to everyone who cares to listen. This is going to end in the biggest financial crisis you've ever seen. U.S. rates rising have never, ever not led to a recession. The Federal Reserve is raising rates. The Federal Reserve is cashing in its balance sheet. The Treasury is borrowing unprecedented amounts of money because of the huge budget holes. And next you're going to get into the tax situation. So this is a very short window right here, right now, to get your money under your control, to get your money into extremely high-yielding U.S. government debt, to get your money out of these third-world shitholes. You know, there's the big pitch. Oh, the third world is the up and emerging market. No, they're not. The third world is the first market to wipe out. Once you realize that, then you can be in a position where you can capitalize on it. And here's how you capitalize on it. Very simply, you get that money, you get it out of their control, you get it to U.S. government treasuries, you pay your tax, and you sleep well at night.